Hello and welcome to Inspire Change with Gunter. I am Miranda Spigener-Sapon, your guest host this week. Gunter is out due to illness, and he shall return hopefully next week to be back with a brand new episode of Inspire Change. In the meantime, we're going to be inspiring change in other ways. I'm bringing on a past guest that's been on the podcast in some of our earlier seasons. That's Andrew Flores. He is an actor and writer, and he has a new novel coming out next year. So without further ado, let's get it started, and we're going to talk about a couple things. I have a movie out right now that's also inspiring change, especially, with the election coming up. It's on female reproductive rights. As you know, we talk a lot about gender equality on Inspire Change. So let's talk a little bit about this and where people can watch it and what's coming up, and then we will sign out. So stay tuned. Got some exciting stuff. Thank you. So, joining me in studio, normally I am behind the scenes on Inspire Change. I'm the showrunner, I'm the executive producer, and Gunter does, that's the voice, that's the brand, but it's not just a brand, it's about men inspiring change and how we can be, better and more productive and positive influences on society. And so we have all kinds of guests, from male and female to whoever is inspiring change to do things better, and ways that we can promote gender equality and human rights and whatever. So let me introduce a return guest who's been on the show, Andrew Flores. He's an actor. You might have seen him in episodes of Queen of the South. He came to LA and was in my play. We go all the way, which was in 2017, The Flame. And we also, we go as far back as 96, 97. I think that's right, Andrew, right? Yeah, and I'm like, I can't shake this guy. He's just right there. It's, I don't want to say he's gum on the bottom of the shoe. No. It's so important to have a good circle and to have people around you with, positive influence and people that are encouraging, and we all have each other's back. We also know when to tell each other to buckle up and think about something, and just generally like people looking out for each other. The latest project that we're doing together at Bonfire Cinema is my film that I co-wrote the script along with Grayson Arndt, who was my co-director on it, and also Tasia Manzoros, who stars in the doc film. It's right now in the festival circuit. It's playing right now at Liftoff Filmmaker Sessions, film festival. So I will have a link in the show notes where people can go and buy a $12 festival pass. When you're getting it, just make sure you choose Trailblazer Shorts, because that's our category, and you can watch a lot of really good short films, including ours, which is called What It Means, and Cast a Vote, But yeah, Andrew was an associate producer on it, and we've got some big plans coming up for screenings, and it's all about women's reproductive rights. This is something very timely right now, and we've got screenings popping up all over the country. Most importantly is states like Texas, where abortion has been banned. Even if you have an emergency situation, there's been so many cases in these southern states and these battleground states where if you have an ectopic pregnancy or anything, one woman literally was given a hysterectomy. and it was just nuts. So that's something we're gonna talk a little bit about, and how we can do better. So Andrew, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Miranda?
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show and being in the studio while we kind of record. It's a little bit late right now, but while Gunter's out, we just want to keep some positive change for our listeners. And so, one thing is just as an actor, as a writer, as a creator, and an artist, and in day to day, what should men be thinking about and doing to inspire change?
Well, I think a lot of times people tend to get caught up in their own things that are going on in their world, and sometimes I would think that what can inspire change is maybe perhaps looking at people who already are doing that. You know, people that they can look up to, people who would probably go against the norm. That would be an inspiration for change. Sometimes, being able to go against the grain or going against what society says is in order to do what is right in the name of what is right. That people, can maybe look at. That, like I said, there's so many issues going on today in the world, but I think it's being able to look at those who are making a change and making a difference.
Exactly, and just having mutual respect for people as humans.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, yeah, go ahead.
It's. I mean, it's. I was just gonna say, it's just. Today it's more like me. And you see road rage, or you see stuff on YouTube. And a lot of times, we tend to forget what's important and what's needed for us men to change.
Exactly, and definitely want to have you on the show with Gunter, so you guys can go into more of a deep dive on this kind of stuff. I'm just kind of scratching the surface because typically I'm behind the scenes and just monitoring the control. So I'm like, oh, now I'm thrown out in front and center. But yeah, exactly. And regardless, because at the end of the day, we are human, and
Yep.
what it does, what it means to be human, to have compassion, to have empathy. You don't have. I mean, how many men? There's a lot of men out there. One thing Gunter talks about a lot is thinking, oh, you got to be macho and tough, one upping each other, and kicking one's ass, measuring contest, you
Right.
know,
Right.
and
Definitely.
does it have to be that way? How do you feel about that?
Well, like I said, well, for my dad, well, not me coming up, of course, my dad was very much like that, but then, my parents had separated. And so, but I had my older brother with me. So he kind of helped, kept me in line, but it wasn't necessarily that in our household. It wasn't that you got to be tough or, it wasn't really that much. I mean, that's not what was going on compared to other households as far as, well, you got to, I'll give you something to cry about. You're gonna cry, but it's okay to
Yeah.
cry.
Yeah. It's okay to shed tears because at the end of the day, you're human. Just because you're a
Yes.
man doesn't mean you can't cry. And Gunter talks about that in Masculinity That Inspires Change, in his TED talks, and in the books. And so, which by the way, we have a special edition coming out. But yeah, Andrew, continuing. I brought up What It Means to Be Human, which is the name of the film that my film that I've directed. That it's called What It Means dot dot dot, and it's a short documentary film done all in spoken word, which is not your typical documentary. We took two stories and a narrative, and each of the actors in that have participated were portraying two true stories. Tasia portrays one story, and Caroline portrays Kristen Ruggebers. You know Kristen. She's also a producer on the project, and so she'll be involved in some of the Q&As that we do for the film as well. But it's about what it means to be human, because at the end of the day, we're all human. We all bleed the same. And so, this thing going on in the world, in a million years, no matter where you stand on things like abortion or politics or whatnot, is it really, the government to tell us what to do, especially when they said, oh no, emergencies will be allowed. Well, come on, Andrew, how many situations have we heard where an emergency situation happened and someone died? There's cases happening. I think we were talking about that one at one of our upcoming screenings. We're going to be doing a community screening, and the film will be playing in rotation in Houston, along with after the community screening at Houston Media Source. And we were having a conversation about where was that woman? Was it in Georgia or Alabama?
Yes, it's Georgia. Her name is Amber Nicole Thurman, and she died because she had, I believe, from what my understanding was fetus material in her body that I guess it was still there, and it became sepsis. And she went to the hospital, and of course the doctors were very afraid because of prosecution from lawmakers. It wasn't quite clear what the law stated in that, and so it came to a point where it was just too late, and she ended up losing her life. And it really breaks my heart because this was a mother of a 6-year-old, and it's just tragic.
And this is and this is clearly a case of where an abortion would be needed. Now, whether you stand on, like I said, in our film, we have two cases. We have one person who wasn't ready, and so they're giving their story, and they're telling their story, and they're also, giving thoughts, and the thing that goes through their head, what goes through someone's mind and their head when they're coming up with to make a decision like this. It's not an easy thing. It's not like you sit out and go, okay, I'm going to kill a child, blah 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 blah. It's not about that. There's so many things. And then the other story is actually Kristen's story, and it's an ectopic pregnancy. There's a case of a woman in Texas, actually, who was given a full-on hysterectomy because the laws would not allow them to abort the pregnancy. If you don't abort, and we talk about that in the film, in the story, if you don't abort an ectopic pregnancy, you will die. The mother dies, the baby dies. So that means you've got, and if this is not your first child, and maybe you've got other children, whatever the case, this is something to where, what about the lives of these people that died, and because of the laws that did not allow this to happen? And so go ahead.
I was going to say, I'd interrupt you, but you and I come from conservative families, and we were taught that abortion was wrong according to God, and just blah 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 blah. But you know what? It doesn't matter what we believe. It's you can have all, whatever your faith is. You can have your belief system, but who are we to tell other people what is right for them?
Exactly. At the end of the day, I mean, at the end of the day, it is not up to the government to decide. And actually, there's a reason why, we have separation of church and state. And now those lines have become blurred. When we first got a green light to shoot this documentary, it was supposed to come, it was before they reversed it. There was the talks of reversing Roe v. Wade. And we'll talk more about this in some of the Q&A. Well, while we were filming, they had reversed it. And so we were thinking, okay, we need to get this film out. And of course, there's many reasons why it's taken so long to get this film out. But now with the election coming up, it's just so important. Really look deep into what someone was going through. When you hear Kristen's story, portrayed by Caroline, when you hear Tasia telling her own story, when you see and then the narrative that we have of the narrator, when Vivian is, she's standing on the mountain amongst nature and she's talking about these stories of two women, and just really listen what it means to have a choice, what it means not to have a choice. And this film also, it leaves it open because we want to do more series on this. It's not, we started with female reproductive rights because this is something that's a subject that's in jeopardy right now. These rights are being outlawed. Those that are disabled, people with disabled rights, especially if you're a parent that you have a disabled child, or a child with some kind of mental instability or a neurological condition, where they may never be able to be financially independent without having a caregiver or someone. But how about having more job programs? More job programs to where people who are disabled, they could support themselves in some way. A lot of times parents, they do set up trust funds, or some kind of, if something ever happens to them, that way their child is taken care of, and it's someone that can take them places, and you know inspiring, from so many things. And so
Yes.
you know so that those are some things that we want to touch in the next one, is that, I mean, seriously, I mean, have you noticed that there's very few rights with people who are disabled?
Yes, definitely. I mean, yes. I mean, I can still remember. Well, I used to work in that field as well, working with people with mental disabilities, and I know one of the main rights was a lot of them wanted to get married, and because they couldn't, because if they did, well, then they would lose their benefits. That was just what it was, and what it is. That's just one example there too. There are many other things, but there have been a lot of advocates out there who continue to fight for people with mental disabilities, and
Yeah.
are to accomplish a lot of stuff.
Exactly. And even if it's not a mental physical disability, neurological conditions, that's nonverbal, because you don't know what the power of humanity can do when you set your mind to it. And if everybody should get an inclusive opportunity to be able to support themselves, to be able to thrive at the end of the day.
It's a sense of accomplishment for any individual. We all have that sense of pride when we really work at something hard, and we're able to feel that sense of accomplishment and meaning. That's, I think, what's important in our lives is meaning, being able to have some sort of self-worth.
Exactly. Self-worth, and um because again, that's what it means to be human. Whether it's your sexual orientation or disabilities, there's so many things to cover. At the end of the day, we're human.
Yes,
and that's why we called the documentary what it means, because it's meant to be part of a series, a spoken word series on what it means to be human, whether it's a fight for women's rights and female reproductive rights, whether it's a fight for if you're disabled and having the same rights and privileges as others, if it's rights, civil rights, whether you're black or Hispanic or Asian or indigenous, any of that, LGBTQ plus rights. There's so many things going on, and it tends to get muddied when it comes to politics. no matter where we stand on the issue when it comes to voting in politics, but really look at it. Don't just sit there and see what you think on what you see on the surface.
Yeah.
I have a line. I have another film that's coming out called Lifelines that touches on mental health. You know about that.
It,
You're also a producer on that
yes.
as well, and
Exactly.
it deals with. I've known people who've battled bipolar and manic depression, and some
Mm-hmm.
people just don't understand. It's something that's hard to treat. It's hard, the medications can't always be done right. There's
Right.
antipsychotics and there's the antidepressants, and there's so many things, and we kind of take it through a journey where
So I
of the
control.
main character.
And,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And so in that film, I have a line where I use this whenever I can, but it was a line that I had wrote in the script where one of the characters in the story, because that story is fiction, but it's based on just experiences I've had with people that I've known that have battled depression or battled bipolar disorder, and just kind of giving them a voice, and through this fictional character. And I've had people who've read an early draft of the script that said, wow, this nailed it. You have no idea what they go through, or
Yeah.
what you have no idea what I go through. And I was like, thank you so much for telling the story. And I'm like, thank you, I'm glad it's touched, because I feel like more people need to know about
Right.
those kind of mental health
Right.
decisions, and what they go through, and their rights to express themselves, and so forth. And so there's a line in there. It's kind of, it's, I guess it's meant to be kind of funny and sarcastic, but there's a line where one of the friends is telling him, well, you got it all because you were traveling the world, and you don't have any kids or a wife, and you're not tied down, and you just do whatever you want. And the character goes, man, that's just surface level shit, you know and
Yeah.
it's true. When you look around what some of these politicians are saying, and how they're trying to turn the country into a theocracy, which
Yes.
is you know blurring that line of church and state,
Yeah.
or they're trying to impose their beliefs on everybody, and like basically say, we're right, you're wrong,
Right.
go away, you don't matter. And you do matter.
Yeah.
Who is it? Who are you? Because at the end of the day, that's narcissism. That's
It is.
people imposing their rights. And
Right.
and Gunter covers that. He covers that as well. And he goes into several deep dives. If you look in some of our earlier seasons and our earlier episodes, you'll see
Mm-hmm.
some of just that. And
Yeah.
so yeah, my thing is, um I get passionate on things, because at the end of the day, it's about being human. We've had a good little conversation. I think I didn't realize we're already at 24 minutes. Um, this is just a short deal. We talk a little bit about the film. We've talked about mental health. We've talked about disabilities, and we've talked about rights as humans. And it's about masculinity inspiring change, and men inspiring change, and things that you can do to help your fellows in your gender being better, and how they can inspire. So how about a couple of closing thoughts, Andrew? Just give me a couple final thoughts on what what it really means to be a man, and things that you do to inspire change, and how you want others to also follow suit.
I think it's just being aware of what other people are going through. I think if we stepped into other people's shoes, that maybe we would have some kind of compassion, some kind of empathy for other human beings. That that maybe we can see things in a more different light. Everything is not you know all black and white. I mean, as far as having to be that total masculine man, that you have to slam the football, or you know uh, do things or go hunting or whatever. It's not just about that. I mean, those are okay in its own way, but I mean, it's also about being human, being compassionate, being empathetic, and having compassion for people who are less fortunate than us.
Exactly. Well, I thank you so much for joining me in studio, so I didn't have to go at this alone, and just having a dialogue. I think every day, if we talk more, I've had
Yes.
some friends that a friend of mine was saying. He was talking with a buddy and they were just talking about their feelings. And these are both very masculine guys. They're also all about gender equality and they have a lot of respect for us women and what we do. But they also need to talk. They also talk to each other.
Yeah.
And it's not just ooh, like a gorilla or something.
I think too that since we are trained as men to not cry and we hold our feelings in, and that's not necessarily healthy. You do need that. It's okay to cry. It's okay to to have those feelings. It's not about just being all tough like that.
Yeah, and just like was it like Jelly Roll's song where he said it's okay not to be okay. You know,
yeah.
At the end of the day, you're human, and just it's okay. Just be, just be.
Yeah,
have a moment of silence. Go talk to a friend. If you need to go crying on a shoulder, who cares? It doesn't make you a sissy or whatever. And you nailed it right on the head there. It's just if we all talk more, regardless.
I mean, whatever you can do to heal yourself. I mean, there are things that you can do. There's meditation, listening to music, anything that's going to calm you down. Whatever your issues that you go through, because we all have issues. Whatever, I say, do what you can to make yourself well.
Exactly. That's wellness and well-being. They get thrown around. Gunter just did a piece on that, on being resilient and being and well-being, and how it sometimes it kind of people take those words for granted. We're all in the grind, and at the end of the day we have to take care of ourselves, because nothing's going to get done if you don't take care of you.
If that were, if people were to take action and look at what they're going through, and maybe there wouldn't be violence in the world, school shootings and, job shootings and, the stuff that you hear in the news, because they don't know how to cope, or whatever they went through. They were bullied, something like that.
Yeah.
I think if they looked at it more internally, I think the world would be a better place, a little bit more better.
And there's so many ways. Gone are the days when people didn't even go, I don't need to go see a therapist. Well, you know what? Even therapists have therapists. That's how they end up being better therapists, because they learn to work on their issues. Because how are you going to help people if you don't help yourself and look within? And so this is what Inspire Change is all about. Gunter works a lot with men and boys on being better men, and part of the Making Good Men Great movement, which again, I want to thank you, Andrew, for coming on the show and kind of co-hosting this with me. And everybody, like, share, subscribe. New episodes come out every Wednesday. They usually drop early in the morning, but you can listen on whatever your favorite podcast platform is. We are an iHeart original series, but we are on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, whatever your favorite podcast platform is. You can also check it out on YouTube as well. We have a new YouTube channel that is kind of in soft launch right now, where we're going to have a couple of more goodies. So definitely thank you, everybody. Thank you to all of our listeners. We are at over 60K downloads per month. We worked really hard to provide great content and insight, because again, at the end of the day, it's what it means to be human. And let's all do better. Let's keep inspiring change. And that is me, Miranda Spigener-Sapon, your executive producer and showrunner of Inspired Change, signing off. And until next week, our next episode, Gunter will return, and he'll have another deep dive topic to go on, and maybe some announcements on the show. But feel free to check out any of our episodes in earlier seasons. And thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.